I told you we're in a mass extinction event right now? To some, this may seem like a given. Rhinos, pandas, tigers, and thousands of other species are either currently endangered or have already been extinct. But I'm not talking about an event that would lead to the extinction of some species. I'm talking about an event that would lead to the extinction of all species. My name is Alec Wynne, and I've been researching insects for the last 3 years as part of my pursuit of a degree of entomology. And today I want to talk about the global die-off of insects and what we can do to prevent it. Now, to give some scale and also to, sharpen the scope of this speech, I'm not really going to talk about most other types of insects. I'm not talking about bees or butterflies or moths or anything, crickets like that. I'm talking only about beetles, which, that being said, is still one of the largest family of insects, with over 30,000 different species in North America alone, according to the Xerces Society. But of these 30,000 species, 60% of them are currently in population decline, which means that 60% of that 30,000 is racing towards endangerment and then extinction. Now, with that many species soon to be either endangered or extinct, you'd think that it'd be pretty high up on the list of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which is the service that oversees most conservation efforts for animals in the U.S. But despite that, of the 2,244 species that are recognized and currently planned for by the Fish and Wildlife Service, only 307 of those are invertebrates. Which is to say that of those 307, not even all of those are insects. Some of them are clams or worms or other organisms like that. Now, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is doing the most that it really can with what it's given. For animals like the Yellowstone wolves, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, it's a much simpler process to breed those in captivity and then release them into the wild, because you can accurately track their numbers and even track individual wolves. But with insects, it's a little different. You can't really track individual insects, and it's difficult to go out and really count their populations because they're small, they're hard to find. So most of what the Fish and Wildlife Service does for endangered insects is they have the insect identified either by them or by a third party who did the research and submitted that proposal. And then they will research the native environment and try and mitigate the access that other, pollutants or factors that led to their population decline have to that environment. And that's kind of it. I think that one of the biggest things that we can do to help insect conservation in the U.S. is to bolster the response that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service can actually put towards insects. Because right now it's basically just make sure they still have an environment. If they grow, they grow. If they don't, maybe try and find another. Because of this, I think that we should try and look at what Germany's doing right now, as they are launching one of the largest insect conservation efforts that we've ever seen. It is a $30 million plan which will fund the research of, the factors that lead to insect die-off. It will fund conservation of their native habitats, and it will work on banning the insecticides that are proven to lead to mass insect die-off of non-target insects. But one of the biggest things for conservation, as most of it is a numbers game, so to say, is the system they're developing that can track insect populations, which would be a huge help to know which populations are actually in danger and which populations are on the road to recovery. Now, like PhD Scott McArt said to Entomology Today, the causes of insect die-off around the world can't really be singled out to one cause. It's more of a death by a thousand cuts scenario. And for each of those thousand cuts, I think you need thousands of people to come together and recognize the problem and try and figure out a solution. And because of that, I think that if you enjoy anything that insects have a part in, such as plants, which produce air, which produce food, or which feed the animals that we eat or that also maintain the environments around us, I think that it is imperative for you to petition your senator, your congressman, whoever you think will listen or can help, to give the Fish and Wildlife Service the power that they need, the funding that they need to really make a significant impact in insect conservation and make an impact in saving the world in a way.